Fun Size Publishing presents Dawn of Hope, Book 1 of the Dawnlin Trilogy, written by Amanda Briar, narrated by Jacci Briar. Author's Note: Dawn of Hope is a new adult fantasy romance novel filled with adventure and high stakes. The story includes mention of loss of family members, death and illness of a parent, adult language, some explicit sexual content, isolation, violence, and life or death situations. Readers who are sensitive to these themes, please take note. Prologue. Silence enveloped the throne room, the chaos of the night left behind. Shadows fell across the floor, casting the once lively room in a blanket of despair. It was as if the room knew what had happened just a short time ago, and was already in mourning for the kingdom's loss. The king entered the room, his feet shuffling and scraping along the stone floor. He walked past the first chair and averted his eyes to the floor. It was too soon. It was too painful. He couldn't deal with the pain yet. He had other things to focus on. The king dropped his body onto the throne, sinking into the familiar cushions and soft fabric. He had been intimate with it for far too long, longer than most kings, especially at his age. His shoulders slumped as he looked down at the small body he cradled in his arms. The soiled blankets had been replaced with clean and soft ones, enough to keep the baby warm in the absence of her mother. He gazed into her face. He had been consumed with joy the day he found out he would have this face to look upon, but now it brought a mixture of emotions. Mostly pain, loss, but also gain. This moment was supposed to be the happiest of his life, gazing into the face of his beautiful baby girl, the princess that he would raise to take his place. He hoped he would have more time with her than he had with his own father, enough to prepare her for what was to come in her life and give her far more preparation than he had. That moment was stolen from him. A single tear slid down his cheek, but he refused to wipe it away. Quiet footsteps approached from the doorway and stopped in front of him. "The baby." The words were soft and full of concern. The king did not startle at the voice. He was too familiar with it. He'd known it since he was a boy.
"Lives,"
he answered solemnly, without pulling his eyes away from her. Her face scrunched in a quick look of discontent before softening and slumbering again. The man took a few steps closer.
"A girl or a boy?" "A girl."
The king knew he did not have to be long-winded with the man. He knew him well enough to hear the meaning behind the words.
"Lennox, like her mother wanted,"
the man whispered. The king nodded, another silent tear falling down his cheek. He was not afraid of the man seeing the tear or seeing him weak. The king hid nothing from him.
"And the queen?"
The king did not answer. He sat, staring at his daughter, trying to find the words.
"The healers say she is alive. Her body lives, but her mind..."
He trailed off, feeling the same stabbing pain in his chest from before when he heard he had lost her. He continued,
They do not know what will come of her mind, or if she will ever wake. Yet her body lives. For how long is unknown.
The man closed the distance between the king and the throne and placed his hand on the king's shoulder.
I'm sorry,
he murmured. The king turned toward the touch, acknowledging the sincerity in it.
Has he been found?
The king asked.
Not yet, but he will be,
the man said as he removed his hand from the king.
The castle is being searched, and patrols are headed out into the city as we speak. Good.
The man stepped forward in front of the king and looked down into the face of the baby.
She will need to be protected.
The king nodded.
They both will need to be. And what of the kingdom? What are you going to say happened? Complications of childbirth. That is all they need to know.
The man nodded and took a step back, waiting for a command.
You may go. I want to be alone with my daughter.
The man bowed his head, not in reverence to his king, but in understanding of a friend.
I will be here if you need me,
he said. He turned and walked through the shadows, leaving the room the same way he came. The baby whined softly, her face crumbling as she started to cry. The king soothed her, rocking her in his arms and stroking her hair through the blanket. This precious girl, his Lennox, was all he had left of the queen, the woman who made his lonely and painful life worth living. He had hoped to grow old with her and with many of their children. Fate had other plans for him. It always seemed to have other plans. He wouldn't let Lennox be taken like her mother. He refused to put her in any danger. He would protect her, even if she didn't grow to understand it or appreciate it, even if she grew to hate him for it. He would do everything in his power to keep her safe and anything to find answers for the queen. He sat in the shadows and felt the palpable silence around him, but as he stared at this tiny face, this person who in a few terrifying moments had become his entire world, he tried to only focus on one thing. Hope that fate could change. Chapter 1. I drop my training blade in the damp dirt at Bryn's feet and storm out of the sparring ring. It doesn't matter that I'm covered in sweat and dried mud. When the king calls, you answer. At least I do. The sound of my footsteps echoes off the stone walls as I make my way down the hall toward the throne room. The slam of a wooden door, followed by the familiar clink of armor and sure-footed steps, stops me in my tracks as Bryn quickly catches up with me. My father doesn't summon me often, so I know that when he does, there is a reason. When he does, there is no ignoring it. I stop what I am doing and go to him, wondering along the way what new demand or restriction he is going to put in place. I am already isolated and forbidden from leaving the castle grounds. I have no one close other than Bryn and Edmund, but even they are required to spend time with me. Bryn for protection and Edmund for education. My days are planned down to the minute. My evenings spent alone in my rooms reading whatever I can get my hands on. He can't take much more away from me, which can only mean one thing. He wants something. We could have at least finished the fight before you stormed off, Bryn mutters as she steps into stride behind me. You know how he is. I can't keep him waiting. I'm sure a few minutes wouldn't have mattered. We slow as we near the ornate gold and black wooden doors. I place my hand on the giant gold handle as I turn back toward Bryn. Let's just get this over with. Then I can go back to being ignored. I push the door open, the throne room extending in front of me, empty except for 2 men standing on the dais. I quickly stride down the walkway and come to a halt at the foot of the few steps below the 2 empty thrones. My father stands before his, murmuring to the man in charge of the day-to-day functions of the castle. I catch his eye and he looks up, quickly dismissing the man. "Father?" I drop into a small curtsy that feels awkward and clunky in my training boots and breeches. I wasn't going to change into one of my usual plain dresses just because his summons came during my training session. "You called for me?" His eyes glance over my attire, catching on the dried mud caked on the fabric. His lack of approval over how I choose to meet with the king is clear. Too bad. As always, when his eyes come to my face, they quickly dart away, a look flashing across his before he schools it back into a mask of indifference. I shift uncomfortably at his disapproval and clasp my hands behind my back. I came as soon as I could.
"I want to discuss the ceremony with you."
He turns to sit on his throne, eyes falling anywhere but my face. Bryn's armor clanks as she shifts behind me. She notices his obvious dismissal, too. "The ceremony and ball?" I say. I am one of the few people in the castle who dares to correct the king. He continues without acknowledging my addition.
"As I'm sure you know, the celebration stems from Blackwood tradition. There are many elements of the ceremony that are integral for the future queen of this kingdom. I have instructed Edmund to ensure that your lessons over the next few weeks will make you adequately prepared for it. A few weeks is a sufficient amount of time. I expect the ceremony will go smoothly. Understood?"
I nod. Of course. He speaks as if this ceremony is news to me, not that I have been dreaming about it for years. As a child, I had little to do after completing my day's lessons than wander the castle and read. I would get lost for hours in books filled with magic and balls, princesses being swept off their feet and living happily ever after. Finding out about the coming-of-age ceremony for the rulers of Blackwood only fueled my naive excitement that one day I would get to experience the same thing. As I grew older, I still looked forward to my 21st birthday and the ceremony, but not for the same reasons. I was no longer naive enough to believe in magic or being swept away by a prince, but I hoped that, for just one night, I could escape the intense loneliness that followed me around the castle halls, sinking deep into my bones. I wanted a real escape, not one just between the pages of books. The stories grew as I did, and were no longer filled with solely happily ever afters. There was plenty of political scheming, backstabbing, and forbidden romance. I didn't want to admit it, but I still deep down wondered if the night of my ceremony, the night I would be officially recognized as the future Queen of Blackwood and able to rule the kingdom if something were to happen to my father, would actually be the night that my life would change. Maybe opening our doors to other kingdoms and establishing relationships with other future leaders would help break my father's hold on me, his so-called protection from whatever he was afraid of. These kinds of events were not just the things of storybooks and actually had political use. Many trade deals were struck, allies formed, and even marriage contracts negotiated. Marriage was not at all on my list of concerns for this event. My father would never allow it, not yet anyway, not until it was absolutely necessary to further the line of Blackwood. If it was, he wouldn't have hidden me from everyone in the land, including our own people. In 20 years, They have never once laid eyes on their own princess. He lifts his arm and gestures to the back of the room, beckoning someone forward. I glance over my shoulder to see Tila striding toward the throne. Her apprentices follow closely behind her, their arms laden with bolts of fabric. Are there any topics you'd like us to review regarding the other kingdoms? I want to be prepared in case things such as goods or trade routes come up.
I will handle those discussions.
He cuts me off, and heat rises on the back of my neck. I keep my face blank, but my gaze trained on him. Why doesn't he want me to be prepared for conversations with other kingdoms? The sons and daughters of the current monarchs are to be my peers one day. How does he expect me to be the Queen of Blackwood if I have no relationships or history with any of them? I will look like a porcelain princess in their eyes, never involved in anything of substance, just there to sit on a throne and look pretty. This ceremony, my birthday, is to be my first impression, and I don't want to disappoint. I want to be seen as a strong future queen and a force to be reckoned with. In my lifetime, my father has never invited neighboring rulers or allies into the castle. There are stories, whispers amongst the staff or snippets of Edmund's reminiscing, which told me that this was not how things used to be. As a young king who walked among the people, he heard their struggles and successes, their happiness and sadness. He cared about them, and they cared about him, earning loyalty both ways. He would hold meetings with other kings, and my mother would host grand balls to welcome everyone. There were picnics and hunts, things that showed off all the kingdom of Blackwood had to offer to the visitors. Our forests, filled with unique sky-high black-wooded trees, are a source of awe and a thriving trade that brings in a significant amount of money for our people. Keeping up these relationships is important for the success of our kingdom. All of this stopped as soon as my mother was gone, as soon as I was here. I never knew this world. Not once was there a party at the castle or friends to invite from other kingdoms. I never knew the prospect of meeting princes I could marry. I had no hope for a happily ever after, like I read about as a child. What made me actually think I could have a happy ending when I watched my father be so unhappy every day of his life? Maybe this celebration would finally convince my father that things could be different, and he didn't have to hide me away. I can prove to him I belong amongst the other rulers and could begin to build relationships with them for the future of our kingdom. If only he didn't keep shutting me down every time I try to show him I am ready for my place in the kingdom. Your Majesty. The royal seamstress, Tila, dips into a deep curtsy, bowing her head toward my father. She steps in front of me, looking me up and down. She clucks as she glides around, assessing me on all sides. Be mindful of the mud. I do not want the fabrics ruined. Her assistants scurry around me, one of them placing a small pedestal at my feet. Sorry, Tila. The stoic face I keep for my father cracks and softens slightly as I mutter my apology and step up on the pedestal. I always feel like a child again when I stand on it in front of everyone, not only because the position brings back memories of Tila dressing me for as long as I can remember, but also because my height makes me feel like a child in comparison. The pedestal does nothing but elevate my short stature and make it easier for them to move about, sticking me with pins and pulling things tight. Tila gives me a soft smile. She knows me almost as well as Bryn and Edmund. She hates that I don't love the extravagant gowns and showy clothes she always wants to create. Not that I have much occasion to wear them. I'd much rather wear mud-covered pants or a simple, soft dress than a ball gown. but she doesn't judge me for it. Too much, at least. Her assistants get to work, wrapping their tape measures around my body and jostling me into different positions. Tila turns back toward my father and claps her hands. This has to be the grandest dress we've made for Her Highness to date. Traditional, of course, but grand. I'm thinking satin, in the kingdom's colors. The gold will complement her hair. Tila gestures at my hair. My normal wavy golden tresses bound into a tight braid that falls over my shoulder, then gives a sound of disgust. At least it will when she isn't covered in dirt and grime. She looks back toward my father. Are there any specifics you have in mind, Your Majesty?
No, Tila, thank you.
A small smile lifts his face, following his quick response. I feel a pang in my chest at the tiny gesture. Many would not notice it, but I do. How can everyone else in the castle earn such respect and acknowledgement from my father? But for years, he has barely looked at or spoken to me. It has only worsened as I age, and I do not understand it. No matter what I try to do, how well I perform at my lessons, or how skilled I am in training, nothing is ever enough. The girls jostle me as Tila gives them direction, but I'm not listening. Instead, I am focused on my father as he turns his attention to Bryn.
Since you have not yet been present for a ceremony, you may be unaware of a crucial element. The ceremony involves the presentation of the future queen with her own dagger for protection. Have you been including dagger skills in her training?
Rarely, Your Majesty. She is competent with a sword and a bow. I will adjust her training regimen to incorporate dagger work. My eyes flick down to the dagger at my father's side. I'd always admired it growing up. It is gorgeous, with a red jeweled handle set in gold, and never leaves his side. Every reigning king or queen designs a dagger for their heir's ceremony and presents it to them on their 21st birthday. They are never to part with it, even in death, to ensure they are always protected. The dagger would be useless if I don't know how to use it, so I'm sure our interrupted spar would be forgotten, and instead I'd be working on honing those skills.
Be sure that you do. It is important.
He gives Bryn a terse nod, sealing his command. Bryn bows in acknowledgement. Yes, Your Majesty. He stands from his throne, still refusing to look me in the eye.
You may go.
His words are quiet but firm as he strides toward the doorway off to the right of the dais. The dismissal is clear, but I cannot move. Tila's assistants have me wrapped in a fabric that is draped behind me, halfway down the aisle. I make a sound of distaste as I look back at it. Don't scoff. Scoffing isn't for princesses. Tila's voice is hard with a mock scolding. I roll my eyes as I turn back to her. You know I hate tripping on gowns. Well, that should not be a problem, as there will be no need to make a hasty getaway in this one. She smirks and then claps her hands. I think we are done here. We have enough to get started. We are on a tight schedule, but I will make it work. Thank you, Tila. I'm sure it will be beautiful. I smile at her as I step off the pedestal. She returns it warmly. It will be, just like the future queen wearing it. She steps around me and quickly makes her way out of the throne room, her assistants trailing behind her. Tila is an older woman, and while we don't interact daily, I've known her my whole life. She is like a protective aunt in the absence of a real one, since neither of my parents had siblings. Hearing the pride in her voice brings a tickle of a tear to my eye. I turn on my heel and stride quickly toward the door. Bryn's sure footsteps trail behind me, but she doesn't say a word. She knows how I feel after these meetings with my father, and knows that even though we have been training all afternoon, I am going to need to work off some more steam. Thoughts of the upcoming ceremony flood my mind. Why is my father so insistent that I leave all political duties to him? I've been preparing for this day for years, and it is finally my time to cement my place as a future ruler of this kingdom. It seems like he doesn't want me to be. But why? I race through the possibilities, coming up with nothing except one glaring reality. He doesn't think I'm capable of being queen. Is that the reason he doesn't trust me to discuss important topics with other heirs? Is it why he keeps me locked away, preventing anyone from knowing me or letting me experience the world outside these walls? He doesn't even want our people to know anything more than my name. What kind of king completely disregards his heir? He hasn't even acknowledged that this is to take place on my birthday. He never did. Year after year to him, it is just another day. Fuck him. I will prove he is wrong. There are a few weeks left to prepare to be the best representation of Blackwood that our people and the other kingdoms would finally see. I will prove to him I can be queen, that I can hold my own amongst the other leaders despite years of being hidden away, giving me less of an advantage. I will be the best queen this kingdom doesn't have a choice but to accept. I am tired of being alone and disregarded. It is my time, a time I have been looking forward to for years, and I will not let him take it away from me. Chapter 2. You can stop pretending to be so formal now. Bryn's words ring through the hall and bounce right off my tense shoulders. The wooden door slams into the wall as I push my way through it. I step outside the castle and immediately flinch at the bite of the cold on my sweat-soaked clothes. The mist and fog that covers our kingdom every day hangs in the air and immediately dampens my hair. I can see my breath as I huff my way toward the practice weapons. I just want to get back to the ring and work off this energy. I need to do something, feel something other than anger coursing through my veins. I'm not being fucking formal, I call out, refusing to look back at her. That's better. She is just behind me now. Her longer steps have caught up easily to my short ones. I just want to get back to the training from before we were so uselessly interrupted. I stalk over to the rack of weapons and reach for a sword. It isn't one of my strongest weapons, which is why I need to practice it more often. I am much more comfortable with a bow, but Bryn constantly reminds me a bow is useless if someone attacks at close range. Not so fast. Bryn grabs my arm and turns me back to her. She reaches behind and pulls a dagger from her belt, extending it out to me. I grasp the hilt and pull it from the sheath, flipping the handle to get a feel for the weight. The blade is dull, just like the practice swords I'm accustomed to sparring with, but I've never used a weapon this small before. It feels too light and awkward in my hands. I groan. Not today, Bryn, please. Can't we just start those lessons tomorrow? No. She releases an impatient sigh and pulls out a dagger of her own. We're running out of time. I gave the king my word that I was going to work on these skills, and I'm not going back on it. We only have a few weeks until the ceremony. Fine, I grumble. I wrap my fingers around the hilt, pointing the blade down at the ground. I am ready to move into my stance when I feel the slap of metal sting across the top of my hand. I hiss and snatch my hand back to my body as the dagger I drop hits the hard dirt at my feet. What the fuck was that for? My scowl is met by a smirk as she resheathes her sword. To show you without telling you that you were holding it wrong, and how easily you can be harmed if you don't hone your skills. I rub the back of my hand and bend to retrieve the dagger. Fine. Show me. Bryn proceeds with her lesson, explaining the grip and positioning, and walking me through a few movements that are so vastly different from the loud and exaggerated ones I use with longswords. Dagger fights are more intimate than those with the sword. She takes a step toward me and feigns swiping across my body. You'll be much closer to your attacker in order to strike them, and sometimes the dagger is all you have when they still have a sword. It makes it more difficult for you to strike a blow, and you have to put yourself at risk to make the strike count. Why wouldn't I just carry a sword then? Isn't the whole point of this to protect me from anyone who wants to hurt me, not put me closer to getting hurt when I try to fight them? Bryn smirks. Because when they take your sword, she says as she reaches behind her and pulls a dagger from a hidden sheath in her waistband. They won't know you're still armed. You'll have the element of surprise, at least for a few seconds. She proceeds to pull out 2 more daggers hidden in her armor that, despite training together for all these years, I never knew she carried. All right, I get it. Let's practice then. We weave through clusters of guards standing around and waiting for their turn in a ring. They are used to seeing their princess out amongst the ranks, and while some acknowledge me with a quick bow and a mumbled greeting, others don't react. Our presence amongst them is too normal. The clang of metal on metal rings through the air, followed by grunts and loud thuds as we make our way to a far ring where a bout is just ending. We're next, Bryn calls out as she swings her body under the wooden beams of the fence surrounding the pit. The victor from the last round nods at her as he reaches down and pulls the other to his feet. They both mutter a quick greeting to us before exiting the ring and standing just outside it with the rest of the group. While I'm used to training with Bryn in the middle of large groups of guards, I don't love it, especially on days I'm already worked up from talking to my father. Just ignore them, Bryn directs, as we step into the center, facing each other. Far too many times, Bryn has had to scold other guards for leering and watching us fight. They claim they are supporting their princess, but I think they just like to watch Bryn kick my ass. Most of the time they are respectful, but every so often one asshole wants to pick a fight. I try to push everything out of my mind as I take the stance Bryn showed me a few minutes ago. Bryn looks much more relaxed than I feel as she stands, waiting for me to strike. I step to the right, and Bryn follows. We slowly circle each other as I wait for the right moment to make my move.
Get on with it already!
A gruff voice breaks through the clatter of the fighting from the other rings, followed by a few snickers. I watch Bryn's eyes harden as she glares past me to the guards. I find my opportunity. Charging forward, I close the space between us and slash at her. Her gaze refocuses on me as soon as I take my first step, and she blocks the movement with her blade. Her feet move quickly as she strikes at me in response. I try to block her jab, but my feet tangle under me and I fall backward on my ass. Fuck! I can feel the moisture from the damp ground seeping into my pants. That's going to hurt tomorrow. I push myself to stand, ignoring Bryn's outstretched hand. She says nothing, just readies herself again. This time she makes the first move, charging at me swiftly. I sidestep and dodge, swirling around and swiping at her side. She blocks the blow and pushes at my extended arm, knocking me off balance. I stumble forward but quickly right myself, just before I hear the snickering of the guards behind me again. Anger rises inside me, breaking down the walls I construct to block out my feelings, especially after today's meeting. The walls are crumbling now, and I feel that anger boil up and over into my limbs. I can't control my movements. I just strike out wildly at Bryn. No control, only emotion. She blocks my advances easily, knocking my slices out of the way. I keep charging at her, missing my strikes all the while she remains cool and collected. I grit my teeth and put everything I have into this blow. I want this fight, to be over. I want the guards to stop mocking me. I want my father to trust me. I want the life that I had been waiting for, the one I thought was coming once I reached this final milestone. Instead, with just a few words, my father dashed every fantasy I ever had about what life would be once I was of age to rule. All the emotions reached the surface. The anger, hurt, embarrassment, I channel them into this strike. I spin my body, gripping the hilt of the dagger with both hands, visualizing the blow just as Bryn taught me. My muscles pull tight as I whip the dagger around her. I let out a cry like the emotions I'm holding on to can't stay in any longer as I slice through the air toward Bryn's protective armor. My battle cry is cut short, and I am suddenly flying through the air, my momentum from the spin carrying me and slamming my body into the ground. I taste the musk of the earthy soil and feel the grit crunch between my teeth as my face hits the floor. Gasping for the air knocked out of me, I quickly spin onto my back. I know never to give my back to an opponent, even if it is just sparring practice. I find Bryn standing over me, the dull point of her sword held over the pulse in my neck. Yield? I give a curt nod, and before I have even finished, she bends down over me, pulling me off the ground and toward her. She wraps her sword arm around my back and pulls me close. Don't let them see you cry, she whispers quickly, her mouth close to my ear to ensure I am the only one who can hear. It is then that I feel the hot tears running down my face. I don't know what emotion these tears are from, but I know she is right. My soldiers can't see their future leader crying when she gets knocked down. They don't know everything else that is behind them. I tuck in my chin as I step away from her and spit on the ground. I swat at my face, hoping to look like I am brushing off dirt angrily, not brushing off tears before anyone sees. Nice move, I spit again, still trying to rid my mouth of the grit. It would have worked if you weren't so in your head. What if I told you? I roll my eyes. She tells me never to fight with my emotions, but I can't help it today. There was just too much going on, and I couldn't keep it out of the ring. To be honest, I don't really agree with Bryn. As the future queen, if I ever find myself in a fight, I can't imagine emotions not being part of it. Otherwise, I have been taught to find a diplomatic solution and avoid stabbing people with swords. I'll try not to let it happen again. Today wasn't the day. Well, if I have to keep knocking you on your ass to get that lesson through, so be it. I narrow my eyes at her, a face that she returns, and I know she will hold to that promise. We're done, Bryn calls out. Next spar up. The ring is yours. The clang of armor sounds through the air as the next guards climb over the wooden barricades into the ring. Before we make it to the other side, a voice from behind catches my attention.
Piss poor excuse for a future queen, if you ask me. Like I've said for years, the king should have found himself a new woman and made a new heir. At least then we'd have a chance at another king.
I feel the sharp stab of his words in my chest as I fall deeper into my feelings of inadequacy. But it isn't me he has to worry about. I turn and reach out to grab hold of Bryn to keep her from making a scene. But I am not fast enough. With her long stride, she is already halfway across the ring. The surrounding conversations grow quiet as the focus of the guards shifts once again to the spectacle that is about to take place. Bryn is tall, and her height gives her the same advantage as most of the men that make up the guards. But her stature and strength aren't the only reasons she has authority. Her position as second guard protecting the princess is the highest of them all, below only first guard, who protects the king. But there is no first guard. There hasn't been one for as long as I can remember. My father chose never to fill the position, leaving Bryn the highest-ranking guard in the castle. No one knows why the king refuses to choose a first guard, but it doesn't stop everyone, including Bryn, from coveting the position. She reaches the man who I assume made the comment, and if I have to guess, was the source of the snickers from earlier. The guards around him take half a step back, leaving him alone at the edge of the ring to receive the wrath of their commanding officer. They are smart. I've seen what Bryn does to guards who step out of line, and I wouldn't want to be associated with that either. "What did you just say?" Bryn growls at him. The smug look on his face doesn't waver as he stares her down with a hardened gaze. He remains silent. "I'm going to give you one more chance to answer, soldier, and you will not be happy with the result if you don't. I said..." She reaches out over the wooden beam, grabbing him by the collar and yanks him forward. He flips over it, landing flat on his back. Pained wheezes break through the air as he gasps for breath. "What did you say?" He stares up at her from the ground, flat on his back. His lips seal shut as he stays focused on her, but refuses to speak. She nods a few times in thought. "Clearly, you have thoughts about the king and your future queen. I'd say they are borderline traitorous. Do you agree?" She looks around at the guards who stood with the man. All of them remain silent, but continue to watch. "I think you may be a bit too comfortable here at the castle, and maybe it's time to relocate. A good stint out at the border should do you well. You leave tomorrow." Despite my position, and despite the years I've spent training alongside the guards, there are still some I need to win over. Most of them treat me with respect inside the castle, and like I am part of their group while we are training. But every so often we run into someone like this man who has a different opinion. Bryn always takes care of them, and I never see them again. The man glares up at Bryn and rolls over onto his stomach, but Bryn doesn't let him get far. "Stop. First, you kneel before your future queen and swear loyalty to the kingdom." The guard looks up at me and scowls. I don't let him see how his words hurt me, and scowl right back. He holds my stare, refusing to back down, but so do I. Bryn towers over him, arms crossed with a look I have seen 1,000,000 times before. Pure authority. The man finally pushes up off the ground and stands. He takes a slow, measured step, then another, closing the gap between us. I feel the urge to reach for a weapon before I remember the ones I have are dull. They would not even make him bleed. He stops and drops to a knee directly in front of me. A ringing echoes as he pulls his sword from the scabbard at his side. He plants the tip of the blade into the ground in front of him and places both hands on the hilt.
"I pledge my service to the kingdom of Blackwood, and give my sword to protect the royal family. I swear my loyalty to the king, Remington Holt, and his heir, Princess Lennox. Long live the king. Long live the princess."
His head is bowed, his eyes downcast as he recites the same pledge I've heard countless times from ceremonies past. It's my part that comes next. "Blackwood honors your service and loyalty. You may rise." Before he can stand on his own, Bryn grabs his shoulders and hauls him off the ground, pushing him toward the fence. "Get back to work." Bryn strides back toward me, the air of authority seeping from her as she walks. It was the same walk she had the first time I saw her. Years ago, when I reached an age where I was no longer a child and could move freely about the castle, my father held a tournament. The winner would be granted the position of second guard, the personal guard to the princess. It was intended to be filled by a guard already within our ranks. However, most of them wanted the coveted first guard position my father refused to fill. Bryn walked into the castle that day, wearing her own set of armor and claiming no kingdom. She was the only woman who signed up for the tournament and was immediately underestimated. She looked as if she was barely a few years older than me, clearly unable to hold her own against the well-trained soldiers of Blackwood. I was the one who didn't underestimate her. She walked with confidence, and I knew she would fight for the position and fight to protect me. It inspired me, seeing someone so close to my age fight as if she were one of the men, having more experience than they anticipated. I rooted for her silently, because it wasn't proper for the princess to choose sides. She was everything I wasn't: strong, confident, aggressive. She didn't cower at anyone and demanded respect as one of their peers. I wanted to be her, or to at least be around her so that maybe she would rub off on my meticulously controlled and lonely life. I didn't realize, as I placed the second guard sword in her hands and congratulated her on winning the tournament, that she would grow to become one of my only friends. After that day, Bryn never had to deal with being underestimated by our guards again. "Your Highness." She gestures for me to walk ahead of her, indicating the end of our lesson for the day. I am glad. We had been out here prior to being summoned by my father. My body is exhausted, but my mind is still reeling. I walk to the edge of the ring and swing my leg over the bottom rung of the fence, dipping under and exiting so the next match can start. The murmur from the guards has stopped, and the normal ruckus and banter of the men in service has started again, with Bryn and me no longer the center of attention. I drop my practice dagger and sword into the rack with a clang, as Bryn does the same. I think I'm going to stay and shoot for a little while. I grab my favorite bow and a full quiver from the rack and slip the strap over my shoulder. "Do you want to talk about it?" "No?" She nods and looks up at the darkening overcast sky. "You have a little daylight left. I'll come back and check on you if you're still here by the time I complete my rounds." I nod and walk to the shooting lanes that are slowly emptying as the guards make their way to the barracks. I stride toward the farthest lane, not wanting to be bothered. I just needed to be alone with my thoughts and focus on something other than the anger at my father. Reaching over my shoulder, I pull an arrow from the quiver and knock it quickly before pulling back the string. I feel the tension of the tight bow on my shoulders and move my front arm to line up with the target. My fingers brush my cheek as I narrow my eyes and focus. Inhaling slowly, I focus on nothing but my breath and the target. I let out the breath, releasing the arrow right at the end, and watch it slam into the target. I completely missed the circles, striking the hay bale in the bottom corner. Shit. I curse at myself under my breath. Shooting has always been a place of solace, where I can focus and completely drown out the world around me. Usually I can still hit the target, even if I'm riled up from an interaction with my father. I'm really in my head this time. How can I not be? Everything I have been waiting for is in question. The aching loneliness I thought had a fast-approaching end date is now in question. The doubt my father's words cast is making my fingers tingle. I squeeze the bow tighter, willing the sensation away and knock another arrow. I pull it back as far as I can, my shoulders screaming in protest as I focus on the target. I release the arrow, and this time the loud thunk gives me a deep satisfaction knowing my arrow has struck true. Gazing down the lane to confirm, I see it, right in the center, right where I expected it. If I cannot rely on my father to fulfill his responsibility as king to present me and prepare me to be his heir, at least I can still rely on myself. This arrow proves it. Despite the pressure and doubt, I can still accomplish what I set my mind to. I can still be who I want to be and do what a queen should do, no matter how much he refuses to believe in me. Chapter 3. I continue shooting, focusing on nothing but the target and the pull of the bow until the clouds covering the sky darken and the evening chill sets in. The light from the torches surrounding the training area is no longer enough to keep practicing, so I know it is well past when I should be back inside. I will be sore tomorrow, but I welcome it. Physical pain is easier to focus on than the pain and disappointment from my meeting with the king. I place the bow and quiver on the rack and make my way inside. The castle is quiet, and my footsteps echo off the cold gray stone hallways. My stomach growls, breaking the silence as I ascend the main staircase. Hopefully Addie saved me some dinner and had it sent to my room. She knows on training days there is a high possibility that I will miss dinner, since it has happened enough in the past. I take the last step at the top of the staircase and come to an abrupt halt. Goosebumps cover the exposed skin on my neck, and my breaths quicken as I try to calm the panic rising inside of me. The door is open. Not fully open, but cracked, and the light from the room pours across the stone floor. My heart beats wildly, and I clench my fists at my sides as my feet move of what seems like their own volition. I can't stop it. Some unknown pull draws me closer to the door, filling me with the need to look inside. It has been so long since the last time I felt this pull, and then I only snuck a passing glance on the way to my room. Feelings war inside me. My head tells me to stay away, but my body tells me to get closer. Try as I might, I can't stop myself. I creep toward it, knowing my training boots are not the stealthiest footwear. I try not to make a sound, taking each step on my toes as I inch closer, trying to stay out of sight. I peer around the edge of the doorway and feel my breath catch. My father sits in a chair, his back to me, facing the large, tidy bed in the center of the room. The ornate bedding is so well kept, it looks as if the room is unoccupied. He sits silently, leaning forward, resting his hands on the edge of the bed. I creep closer, leaning slightly to see past the edge of the door. That's when I hear it. I don't recognize it at first, but the longer I stand watching, the more it becomes clear. Sniffling, followed by tiny movements of his shoulders. His hand reaches up to wipe his face. Crying. My father is crying. I lean in, trying to get a better look, to see if there is some reason he is sitting alone crying in her room, when the sound of a voice mumbling catches me off guard. I stifle a gasp and pull myself back from the doorway, pressing my body against the wall, making myself as small as possible. I suck in deep, measured breaths, trying to still the heaving of my chest at the thought of being caught. Who is speaking? Who is my father openly crying in front of? In nearly 21 years, I have never seen my father cry. My shallow breaths and heartbeat pumping through my ears make it difficult to hear. I strain to hear who is speaking and make out the words that are affecting my father so strongly. I inch closer and start the breathing exercises Bryn taught me to keep me from getting winded. Breathe in. Hold. Slowly breathe out. On the hold, I listen harder and can pick up the low voices.
Are you sure there has been no change?
My father's voice sounds strained. A small crack of emotion breaks through his words.
Yes, Your Majesty, I'm afraid so.
The healer. It makes sense that he is the one speaking to my father, He has monitored my mother for as long as I can remember, giving my father updates regularly over the years that her health remains unchanged.
"If I may, Your Majesty."
He pauses. I push closer to the wall, as if removing that slight bit of space will help my hearing.
"It has been quite some time. Our healers have no explanation for Her Majesty's lack of decline, considering her state. However, we feel it is time to contemplate letting her go."
Silence fills the room, and I hold my breath, waiting for my father's response. As far as I know, no one has ever suggested this to the king. Until now. But why now?
"I'll consider it,"
he grumbles, his voice heavy with emotion. I'm not used to hearing him like this, so different from the cold, short way he speaks to me.
"Of course, Your Majesty. There is no rushing the matter. Please let us know what you decide."
I hear rustling as the healer gathers his things, and I frantically look around the hall. If I walk past the room now, I'll surely be noticed, and I don't want to be caught eavesdropping on my father. I eye the large tapestry next to me and slide behind it. Not the most creative space, but it will have to do. It just brushes the ground, so they won't see my feet hiding under it. I flatten my body against the wall behind it and wait for the healer to exit the room. His footsteps shuffle past me, and I wait a few moments longer to ensure my father doesn't decide to follow. The quiet sniffling resumes, so I'm safe to come out. He hasn't left. I contemplate heading straight to my room, but something makes me stop again and listen. The soft sniffles grow into low sobs. I stand in the hallway, listening to my father cry over a woman I never knew, but so desperately wish I did. I brush a rogue tear off my cheek, the emotion coming from the room overwhelming. To say my father and I aren't close is an understatement. He barely tolerates me. It has been that way my entire childhood. I had more interaction with Edmund and Tila and even Addie and Bryn than I had with him. Every time he looks at me, I see pain in his eyes. Pain I had caused. This is why I avoid this door, and why every time I walk down the hallway, I am slapped with the reminder of what I had done. Tonight is an even harsher reminder of how I stole my father's happiness, and how I have never been enough to fill that void for him over the past 20 years. I'd taken my mother away from him, ripped her out of this world and into this state of in-between, where everyone is reminded she is there, but not truly. We have to walk by her chambers every day, knowing she lies behind the closed door, unmoving, unable to wake, and unable to live the life she planned with my father. Because of me. Not only did I take her away from him simply by being born, but I took her away from myself. I have never known this woman. All I've known is the dream of what a mother would be like, and how it could never be her as she lies in this room, unable to wake. And now, listening to the healer tell my father it is time to let her go, all hope of ever meeting her, of having a parent who cared for me and wanted me there, is gone. My fantasy that one day she would wake and I would know the unconditional love of a parent and live out the rest of our days making up for lost time is disintegrating. Despite our relationship, seeing my father so upset about losing her for good brings me sadness. But there is more to it. The realization that I'm also losing her, the only her I have ever known, feels overwhelming. It's a loss of possibility, not a loss of someone I knew and loved, not like my father is losing. I swipe at the tears welling inside my eyes and clear the thickness building in my throat. I don't care if my father hears me. I stride strongly down the hallway toward my rooms, holding my head high. I need to let this fantasy go. I will never know her. You aren't really losing her. You never had her. I squashed the hope I had down deep into myself, never wanting to feel it ever again. If only that were possible. Chapter 4.
Good morning, Princess.
I startle at Edmund's words and slam my book shut, tucking it into the large winged chair cushion next to me. I got to the library for my lessons early this morning, finding that my time spent in the quiet amongst the full shelves is some of my most calm. I have met with Edmund in the castle library every day since childhood. He's taught me everything I know, every lesson on politics, geography, customs. He has made me the future queen I am today. Good morning, Edmund. I sit up straighter before letting out a large, very unprincess-like yawn, stretching my arms above my head.
Catching up on some reading?
Yes, I was up reading until it was almost light. It is the truth. After leaving my father crying over my mother last night, I could not quiet my mind, so I resorted to distraction.
Something educational, I hope.
His eyebrows rise as he quirks his head. Of course. I will the blush out of my cheeks. I don't want to get into what I am reading. I discovered Tila's stash of books years ago. I was bored, waiting for her to arrive in her chambers, when I started snooping through her things. A row of neatly lined books caught my eye on the shelf above where she did her sewing, and I decided to ignore boundaries and look. I stood on her stool and pulled one down, expecting to find patterns or instructions for crafting all the clothing she made. As my eyes scanned the text, I was shocked to find the book had nothing to do with sewing. I pulled down book after book and skimmed random pages. They were stories, romances, and some of them were naughty. My eyes scanned the covers but did not find a single detail hinting at what was inside. I have been sneaking into her rooms and borrowing books from her shelf ever since. I truly think she knows and pretends not to, because I notice new ones appearing all the time, and she never seems to notice when one is missing. Ever since, I have loved to read about love, craving the escape, the longing, the happy ending. The idea of someone loving someone else that much makes my chest squeeze. I've never known that kind of love, never truly seen it either, unless you count the times I've seen my father sitting in with my mother. I want what I read about in Tila's books. It is one reason I am so upset about my father's refusal to involve me in anything for the kingdom and my continued isolation. Am I doomed to be isolated and unloved for my entire life? So I find it in the books, who have been my constant companions for years. I don't lie to Edmund when I say I am reading something educational. The books can be very educational, especially when I was younger and didn't have a mother to explain these things to me. Gods no, my father never will, and maybe this is why he never discussed any betrothal or marriage agreement with me. He avoids any mention of moving forward in my life at all costs. Edmund chuckles as he takes a seat.
You and your stories. Just make sure to return them to Tila when you are finished.
My jaw drops as I take in his light-hearted look. How does he know?
There isn't anything that happens with books in this castle that I am unaware of.
I gape at him as he sits in the chair across from me, as he has done every day for years. After a few beats of silence, I finally find words. I read them to escape. It's nice to live in someone else's head for a little while. Despite the initial discomfort of him knowing what I am reading, it is fairly normal for me to be this open with Edmund. If Tila is like a mother figure, then Edmund is like my grandfather, one I am very close to. Just as Tila has been there my entire childhood, so has Edmund. My father assigned people to look after me as a child, and they have remained unchanged all this time. Bryn is actually the newest, and she has already been around for years. But Edmund is more than just my tutor. He is a confidant, someone I spend my days with and who knows me better than anyone else, even Bryn. It doesn't bother me he is at least 3 times my age. I know he loves me and cares for me, as if I am his own family, his own daughter. For all I know, he considers me as such, because he has no family of his own.
Despite the vivid imagery I'm sure are in the books you and Tila read, we can learn a lot from stories if we pay attention.
I chortle at his insinuation, despite knowing he is completely right.
Is that the lesson that you want to have this morning?
I thought we had to go over things for the ceremony.
That can wait until later.
He rests his face on his hand, leaning on the armchair as he often does when he gets ready to lecture, and gazes at me through squinted eyes. What? I squirm in my chair at the intensity. Just like any father figure, he can instantly make me feel like a child who did something wrong, though with Edmund, nothing I do has or will ever make him mad at me. In my younger years, I definitely tried. No matter what I did, instead of resorting to anger or punishment, he instead instantly taught a lesson from my behavior, turning a negative experience into a positive one.
I'm just trying to remember if I've told you this story before. It's one I used to tell my son. Even so, if you've already heard it, let's just pretend it is the first time. Understood?
My jaw drops at his words. Son? I'm sorry. Your son? You have a son? His eyes missed at my question, and an emotion that I've never seen crosses his face. Longing? Nostalgia? I can't quite tell.
Yes, I have a son. He's been gone for quite some time now.
Is this why Edmund never brings up his family? I assume his son died, but how? What happened? It must have been before I was born, or at least a few years after, because I have no recollection of Edmund ever having any family at all. I can see the sadness and love in his eyes at bringing up his son, and I want to ask more, but I don't want to hurt him. In 20 years, this is the first he's ever trusted me with this information. I want him to know I care, but I don't want to make his sharing more difficult than it already is. I pick at a seam in my simple, deep green wool gown as I contemplate my choice of words before uttering them slowly. Why have you never mentioned him before? He raises a hand to his face, his fingers covering his lips as he thinks before answering.
As I'm sure you know, some things are difficult to think about, let alone talk about, but they still live with us every day. We do not forget.
I shrink back slightly at his words. He's right. People live every day with things that are hard to think about. Edmund is finally giving me a glimpse into his, and we both know I have mine. I swallow before I speak again. I'm sorry for whatever happened. Tell me the story, please. I've spent almost every day of my life with Edmund, and he can't remember if he had told me a story he used to tell his son. If he hadn't, it might have been over 20 years since he told anyone this story. I don't want to rush him, especially since it might bring up more memories, making what was supposed to be a typical morning of lessons a difficult one. He shifts and lowers his hand to his lap, intertwining his fingers, but staying silent. After a few moments, he clears his throat and begins.
It is not just the kingdom of Blackwood that exists in this world. As you know, from the countless lessons of geography we have covered through the years, as well as the inter-kingdom affairs and politics, there are neighboring kingdoms on this continent and afar. Blackwood as a whole is a rich kingdom, filled with skilled craftsmen and raw goods to trade or sell with other kingdoms. The natural wealth of the land provides us with jobs to support our people, to ensure that our citizens can live comfortably and care for their families. While this is the reality for Blackwood, not all others within our reach are as successful and, as such, are not immune to suffering, disease, and death.
This is not the type of story I was expecting. When he spoke of a story he told his son, I expected more light-hearted words, not something that sounded like it is being quoted directly from the books we study. I expected something with a plot and hidden meaning, something he would make me pull a lesson from. I do not know where he is heading, and after last night, I don't know if I can handle a story about death and suffering. I shift uncomfortably in the chair and wait for him to continue. He presses on.
Despite the advances in medicines and healing that many kingdoms, ours included, have benefited from, there are still many ailments or illnesses that cannot be treated, many of which cannot be explained. Families and friends are forced to watch their loved ones suffer with no hope of survival. It is only natural that they yearn for answers from medicines and healers, or elsewhere.
I swallow the lump in my throat that formed after his words. Cannot be explained. This story is hitting too close to my heart after everything I dealt with last night. Our healers have no explanation for Her Majesty's lack of decline in her state. Is this the reason Edmund brings up the story today of all days? He hasn't for almost 21 years, but suddenly he deems it so important that we need to push off preparing for the ceremony so I can hear it? How much does Edmund know about my mother's health?
In short, they need a miracle, a cure, something to save the life of those they love, healing injury and combating illnesses that plague them. Some, desperate enough to save a loved one, would give up everything they had, or do anything they could to save a child, a spouse, a parent, a sibling, even a friend.
This no longer feels like a coincidence. This lesson is targeted. Edmund must know. He must have talked to my father last night, or the healer at least. But what I cannot figure out is the reason. There is no longer any hope. The healer said so himself. She needs to be let go. And if anyone needs to hear this story about doing anything to save someone they love, maybe it is my father. Maybe he should do something more with his influence and power than hold vigil by her bedside for 20 years. He continues.
Many tales have been passed down through the generations, talking of different treatments to cure certain ailments. But alas, nothing is guaranteed. Many people still die or are permanently changed from their injury for the rest of their lives. He stops, and I remain silent. He seems to be contemplating how to tell the next part of the story, or whether to tell it at all. He has built it up this far, and I need him to finish, need to know why he is telling it, and how this pertains to me. What lesson is he trying to teach me? The pause finally ends, as if he is convinced I am listening, and it is worth finishing. There is a myth of a land named Dawnlin. The story has been passed down through generations. The myth states that this land contains an element of some sort said to cure any disease or heal any injury, restoring the perfect health to a person. The land itself is shrouded in secrecy. No one truly knows how to find it, and no one truly knows what the element is. There have been no confirmed cases of some sort of magical element, only stories of miraculous recoveries in people who were otherwise doomed to die. The accounts of the family members or friends do not shed any light on the recoveries, as they swear they do not know how it happened. No one can confirm that any sort of element or elixir was used, only that the patient, who many times was ready to part from this world, was instead back to their normal ways in the blink of an eye. As you can assume, this magical element, if it did exist, would be highly coveted. The number of people who would fight to get their hands on it for personal gains, control, and influence in our kingdoms could be astronomical. Can you imagine the number of people who would do or pay anything to use it, to ensure they or someone they loved wouldn't die? Or those who would hoard that power over others for their own gain? I can imagine that there would be many people who would use it to extort others, I say. The possibilities would be endless. I can only imagine the shift in power or the sheer amount of gold that would be paid to obtain it. Would men or women who hoarded this magic take over and rule the land, deciding who would live and who would die? Would kings give up their kingdoms in order to save someone they loved? Would my father give up his for my mother? I push the thought away as quickly as it comes into my mind, focusing back on Edmund. That is where the Guardian comes in. It is said that the land of Dawnlin is protected by a guardian, a being who is the only one who can bring people on and off the island. The guardian is the gatekeeper, the one that gives the chance to obtain the elixir to those who truly need it. The guardian's identity is unknown, and how he or she travels there is a complete mystery. No one knows how the island selects who is brought there or why, but that doesn't stop the hope that one will be chosen. It has been many years now since such a miraculous recovery has occurred, making people wonder if Dawnlin actually exists, or if something has happened to the Guardian. Though much time has passed, hope is not lost, as those who are desperate for a cure still wait to see if such a grace will be bestowed upon them. I wait for him to continue, but he just looks at me as if expecting a reaction. He tilts his head to the side as he gazes at my face. You seem disappointed. Edmund can always tell my genuine emotions, no matter how much I try to hide them. He can always pick apart even the most stoic looks on my face.
This isn't one of those times. I quickly loosen my lips and school my face back into a neutral position, not realizing my lips had been pressed together, my eyebrows drawn down. My feelings must be written all over my face. That wasn't what I was expecting when you said you were going to tell a story.
Is the story of a mythical land that holds a magical cure for all illness and injury not a story enough?
I was just expecting a plot.
Not all stories need characters to learn from. Even the simplest of stories can teach us.
Fair, I say. Edmund is like this often. He enjoys teaching in puzzles, pushing me to pull the information from what he says, instead of just talking at me and expecting me to regurgitate the information. He likes to make me think.
Are there any lessons you can garner from it?
I think for a minute. I know this story is really special to him, but to me, that's all it is. A story. It sounds like one designed to give people hope, making them wish the guardian would appear one day and give them the ability to save someone they love. But that is where it ends. Hope. Hope for the families, hope for the ill. Maybe it gives a person peace, feeling they could be saved. But would that not make it more difficult to accept their fate when they aren't? Isn't it better to acknowledge it for what it is, a hope that will never be, and move forward with what you can control, processing the grief of loss and not believing in some sort of mythical magic? The pain from last night floods my body as I relive all the dashed hopes of never meeting my mother. I clench my fists, taking a deep breath as my eyes flutter closed. I don't want to go through this again, especially since I worked so hard to distract myself and forget. I think the lesson is that hope can be dangerous. I open my eyes and meet his again, trying hard to keep the turmoil flowing through my body from showing. He eyes me, face devoid of all emotion.
That is an interesting take. Care to elaborate?
It isn't logical to believe in something so wholeheartedly and hope so strongly that you lose your sense of reality.
So it is illogical to have hope?
Confusion flashes on his face, but he quickly hides it, forcing me to formulate an answer, not just respond the way he expects me to. Not exactly illogical. I think having hope is fine, but only to a certain point. Magic is not real. It is hopeless to believe only because of a story and put all your hope and energy into waiting for it to save you. At that point, you have two choices. You can either save someone yourself or accept the reality of their fate and do what you can with the time you have left.
Even at the expense of watching someone you love suffer.
I think hanging on to hope is the easiest way to guarantee you wait around and watch, rather than moving forward. Why not accept the grief and process it, so it doesn't hurt as much when the person is actually gone? My father has been holding on to hope for 21 years, and look where it has gotten him. Hanging on to nothing just to say goodbye anyway. It would have been better for him to just let her go a long time ago. It's not like my life would have been any different. A single tear trails down my cheek and I swipe it away. I know Edmund saw it, but I also know he will not pry. Can amazing things happen? I say. Sure. But magic? Some magical element that can make someone whole again? It isn't realistic. There is too much suffering in the world to hope and believe something like this elixir exists. And who chose this guardian? What makes him so special that he gets to choose who deserves to be saved and who doesn't? Why is he the one who gets to fulfill hopes of some but not others? I feel my emotions bubbling up again, fighting to spill over. More words pour from my mouth, and I can't stop them. It's almost cruel to give people this hope and let them live their lives thinking magic will save them. Are they not suffering more knowing as every day passes that their suffering wasn't enough to be helped? How is it fair to choose one over another? My mother... I slam my mouth shut and tear my eyes away from Edmund. I try to blink away the tears, but instead cause more to fall. When I finally feel in control, I look back at Edmund, who is still watching me quietly. He knows what I almost said, but knows me well enough not to ask me to finish that sentence. I don't want to. I don't want to suffer more today. Is this why he brought up this story? Why today? Why so suddenly? I wonder if this has something to do with his son. Is today the anniversary of his son's death? Does Edmund believe in Dawnlin and waited with hope to save his sick child only to be disappointed he was never chosen? What lesson is he trying to teach me from his experience? Do you know? I ask. I don't give him anything else. Silence stretches over the library as Edmund looks down, breaking our eye contact. He knows. Is there anything else you learned? He examines his hands, waiting to see if I respond with the proper lesson. Yes. I snap a little more forcefully than I intend. I am not upset with him for bringing this up. I'm more upset that I let my emotions break through the surface. If there is anything my father expects from me as the future Queen of Blackwood, it is to always have a handle on my emotions, just as he does. I shift in my seat and calm myself before speaking again. I think there is a lesson about humankind, or more so, a warning. There are always those who thirst for power, and it's easy to use hope against anyone in order to attain it. He looks back up at me, holding eye contact again. You sound very cynical this morning. If I'm going to be the Queen of Blackwood, I need to be. I have to protect my people, and if someone is going to harm them or hold power over them, I need to be the logical one that isn't tricked and confused. I can't let emotions get in the way of that. So, it is the want for power that drives people to seek Dawnlin, not love that does so? I think for a minute, before answering carefully. I think love influences decisions and pushes people to make bad ones. Love makes people hope, and hope can be dangerous if you don't choose to act instead of just waiting around. But power motivates people to act, and love blinds people from seeing it. I swallow down all the things I don't want to say out loud. Things like love causes pain, and hope mixed with love causes even more pain. Things like losing hope hurts almost as much as losing someone you love. Light always finds a way, even through the blackest woods. I couldn't tell you how many times in my life I have heard Edmund utter that phrase, but this time it doesn't comfort me like it usually does. I realize now that while I always thought it was encouraging, it was actually pushing me to feel hopeful. And I don't feel hopeful today. All of this talk makes me want to get as far away from hope and emotions as I can. I want to shut down and feel nothing. Do nothing. Maybe I need to find Bryn today after all and just work it out. I'm sure she would be delighted. Can we just move on, Edmund? I say. I don't want to tell him I didn't enjoy his story, especially because the memory of telling it to his son seems important to him. I don't want to bring any more negativity into this conversation or tarnish Edmund's memory about his son.
"Oh, we're done for the day,"
he says calmly. I stare at him, skeptical. We barely just started. What am I missing?
"Not missing anything. I simply think we have discussed enough lessons for the morning. There is a lot to think about here."
All right. I trail off, twiddling my fingers together uncomfortably.
"But I have something for you."
He reaches into his coat and pulls out a small leather-bound book. It looks very used. The corners are not sharp and the leather has divots and nicks. What is it? I ask. Edmund leans over, placing the book in my outstretched hand.
"Something I felt you should have had a long time ago, but nevertheless, you should at least have it now."
I don't understand, I say, running my fingers over the binding. This book is a lot smaller than most we have used for lessons. I reach to pull open the cover, but Edmund stops me.
"I would recommend reading it when you are alone."
He leans forward, pushing on the arms of his chair until he is standing in front of me.
"But I would recommend reading it, Lennox, no matter how difficult it may be."
I stare after him, at a loss for words as he strides to the door. He gives me a brief nod before opening the door and slipping through it, leaving me in the silence of the empty library. Chapter 5. The click of the latch reverberates through the room as Edmund leaves me alone with only my thoughts and this book. What could possibly be inside that I need to be alone to read? I scan the outside, looking for some kind of clue as nervousness overtakes me. I am slightly afraid to open it. Once I do, there is no coming back from whatever is inside. From the way Edmund acted, it seems really important. I carefully peel back the cover and scan the first page. Nothing. Blank. No clues to be seen. My fingers flutter over the corner of the first page, sliding behind it, ready to turn. Curiosity overcomes my nerves and I flip it rapidly, eyes scanning to find the text. My eyes snag on the writing at the top of the page. My dearest daughter. The words begin to blur as I slam the book closed. The loud snap echoes off the walls and hits my ringing ears. Daughter. My dearest daughter. Who wrote this? What kind of joke is Edmund playing? No, Edmund would never play this kind of trick on me. This has to be real, and the thought sends my mind spiraling. There is no way this could be from my father. So that leaves only one person. My mother. My hand shakes as I reach to open the book again, flipping to the first page. I scan over it quickly and let out a quiet sob as I take in the dainty script handwriting that fills the pages. I flip through the book, the pages filled with writing, almost to the end. This was hers, and she wrote it all to me. I fumble through the pages, making my way back to the first so I can start at the beginning. Edmund said I should have had this long ago, so who kept it from me? Was it him or was it my father? The pit deepening in my gut screams at me my father was the one who hid it. I can only imagine why. I inhale a deep, shuddering breath before looking at the words again. I want to devour them, but I force myself to take them in slowly and savor every ounce of her I can. My dearest daughter. Well, I am calling you that because despite your father already planning to name his son after himself, I know deep in my heart that you are a girl. My Lennox. I've always dreamt of giving that name to my daughter, and I know that is exactly what will happen. The moment we found out you were coming, your father and I were overjoyed. We are counting the days until we get to hold you in our arms. We waited so very long for you, and we will wait ever so patiently now, knowing that you will soon be ours forever. I wanted to write to you, my darling girl, every single day because there are so many things I just cannot wait to tell you. That is why I started this journal, to make sure that you did not miss a moment of the happiness your father and I are experiencing, waiting for our joy. I love you, my sweet girl, more than you will ever know. Love, your mother, Lila. I cover my mouth to hide the sound of the sobs that are wreaking havoc over my body. Never once had I seen anything written by my mother, nor heard anyone talk about her feelings toward me. She has been a mystery, a ghost, but she is coming to life before my eyes. I can't stop myself now. I read as quickly as I can, flipping the pages and soaking up this woman I never got to know. By the time I reach the end, having read through every word a second time, the library is dark. My eyes are filled with a dull pain from both straining to read the words in the dimming light, too engrossed to stop, and from the constant tears being shed. That's it. It's over. Those are the only words I will ever get from her. Edmund was right. I needed to be alone when I read this. I am glad I listened because I am a mess. I curl up into a ball, sinking as deep into the chair as I can, clutching the journal to my chest, and cry. I let everything out, all the emotion that I tried to bottle in for the past 20 years. I let the sobs overtake me, my body heaving and my muscles clenching as I gasp for air. I can barely open my eyes, and my body feels as if it is made of stone. I cry for God's know how long, alone in the library, hoping that no one will come looking for me. I don't want anyone's comfort right now. I only want hers. I want to feel her arms wrap around me and hold me tight, petting my hair and telling me I will be all right. I want to know the sound of my mother's voice and hear her say the words she used to sign off every note. I love you, my sweet girl, more than you will ever know. A hole in my chest widens at the realization that I will never know her, never truly meet my mother who wanted me so badly. I will never meet the woman who took so much time writing to me about her day, her life, telling me stories of her childhood and her hopes and dreams for mine. How could Edmund be so cruel giving this to me now, when he knew that her time is done, that I will never have a chance to meet her, that my hope for ever knowing her is lost? Why would he give me this gift? Only to have her loss be so much harder now that I got to see a glimpse of this amazing woman, this parent who actually wanted me. My childhood, my whole life to this point would have been so different if only my mother were there, and I wasn't subject to a father who couldn't care less, who could barely even look at me. I feel the loss drag me down, deep under the waves of tears and hurt and pain. I lay there in the chair, in the dark until the sobs slow, my body so heavy and my energy so depleted that I can barely move. All I have now are my thoughts, and I can't get past the one repeatedly running through my mind. Why would Edmund do this to me? Why would he want to hurt me in this way? What was he trying to teach me? My mind strains as I try to think back to the events of the morning. Reading the journal had completely consumed me, and I tried to focus on what came before it. Edmund's story. The myth of Dawnlin. Hope. Was Edmund trying to give me the gift of my mother so that I wouldn't lose hope for her? It was a pretty fucked up and cruel way to go about it. I told him I didn't believe in the magic, but was there hope I could actually have? Maybe that is all the magic was. What if it was a metaphor? Something to help people understand they don't have to be hopeless. Maybe I don't have to be. Maybe it is time to consider letting her go. No, I don't have to accept that. I can be the magic, and I can work to figure out how to help her. I told Edmund I didn't believe in sitting around and waiting for something magical. That would cause nothing but pain. My mother has been lying in that bed for over 20 years, waiting for a miracle. I don't have time to wait around for magic or myth. The healers say that this is it, that it is time to give up hope. I already said goodbye to a woman I didn't know, to the idea of having a mother. But I have her now. I have her in these words, in her book, and by some weird fate, she is still there, waiting. Maybe she is waiting for me, not to give up hope, and to be the one to do something more, to find something that can help her, and not just release all hope and let her go like they are trying to convince my father to. This had to be why Edmund said I needed the journal now. He didn't want me to give up hope, to give up on her. He wanted me to see what I was losing and do something about it. I suck in a breath and push myself up, wiping away the tears and trying to blink through the swelling. I will do it. I won't give up on her. I won't give up hope. But I don't have much time. All it would take is one word from my father, and they would stop providing her care and let her fade away. I need to act now. Clearly, Edmund believes I can. And maybe, if I believe in myself and find something to bring her back to me, my father will finally see how worthy I am to rule this kingdom, and I won't be alone while I do it. Chapter 6. If only Tila could see me now, I murmur as I scan my reflection in the mirror, looking over the staff outfit I had snagged from the laundry to make sure nothing about it would give me away. I need to blend in, not only if anyone inside the castle saw me, but also so I didn't catch the attention of whoever I encountered outside of it. I stayed in the library well into the night, pulling all the books I could find with any information that might be helpful for my mother. Edmund had taught me the basics of healing and the human body during my lessons growing up, so at least I understood what I was reading. Despite being in the castle library and supposedly having the largest range of books and texts in our kingdom, I didn't find anything specific to a case like hers. I scoured the titles, pored over the table of contents, and spent hours reading anything that was even remotely related. I couldn't find any case like hers, or any sort of treatment for a body in a perpetual sleep. It isn't until the windows brighten with the coming dawn that I made my decision. I needed to exhaust all possibilities and search elsewhere. Maybe written encounters of cases like hers never made it to the royal texts. Maybe they were out among the people. I needed to check. So as my eyes were drooping and my mind was begging for sleep, I decided I was going to do something I had never done before. I was going to sneak out of the castle. That decision led me to this moment, staring in this mirror. I pull my hair back and braid it sloppily, but my eyes catch on the color. Despite no one outside these walls ever having set eyes on me, I feel that my long golden locks, so similar to my mother's, would be a dead giveaway. I scan the surface of the vanity next to the mirror. Maybe I could use something to disguise it. I spot a powder Tila normally uses on my eyes. Perfect. I crush the powder, rubbing it between my hands, and then wipe it over the surface of my braid. It isn't a drastic difference, but it is enough that I may get past anyone without a second glance. I scan myself again in the mirror quickly. It'll have to do. I don't usually have training with Bryn scheduled for today, so it isn't abnormal for me to spend the afternoon in my quarters, reading or studying my lessons. No one should miss me. This entire plan hangs on that, and I don't have time to waste. I pull the dark cloak over my shoulders and clip the clasp across my chest, leaving the hood down so I don't draw attention or look like I'm hiding. I just need to keep my head down and walk with a purpose, ready or not. I pull my door open slightly, stopping to listen for any footsteps or voices. When silence is all that greets me, I slide out of the door and pull it closed silently behind me. I glance down the hallway in both directions. Still no one to be seen. I turn away from the main staircase, hoping the smaller one at the end of the hall will keep me from running into anyone. I push the doors at the bottom open and walk toward the kitchens, where a ruckus of pots, pans, and voices rise all around me. Shit. It's going to be impossible to slip past all these people without someone noticing me. I pull up the hood, sucking in a deep breath and holding it as I drop my head and stride purposefully toward the delivery door in the back. No one pays me any mind. There was no halt in the conversation, no sign that anyone had even noticed me. Has it really been this easy the entire time? Have I really spent years of my life feeling like I could never leave this castle simply because my father commanded it, but all it took was actually just walking out? I will not test my luck. I push open the door and step out into the frigid air. Shutting it quickly behind me, I pull the hood lower over my brow. I glance over my shoulder, eyeing the guards stationed at the gate in the castle wall. Since I never leave, I don't see the guards stationed here often. I say a quick prayer that they don't train at the same time as Bryn and I do before I turn to face them and start making my way toward the gate. My heart pounds harder with every step I take, my palms sweating so much that I slyly rub them on the sides of my skirt under the cloak. Please don't notice me.
"Evening, miss,"
the closest guard says as I stop in front of him. I drop into a quick curtsy, keeping my eyes on the floor in front of me. "Good evening, sir," I say, trying hard to keep my voice low and steady. This is the closest I have ever been to the outside world. I can't fail now. I can only imagine my father's reaction if any of the guards recognize me and drag me back to face his punishment. The lock clicks and the hinges squeal as one of the other guards swings the gate open.
"It'll be dark soon. Send word if you need one of us to accompany you on your return."
"Thank you, sir. I will be sure to do that." I definitely won't be doing that, but as the future queen, it is nice to know the guards care for the well-being of all the staff. I give him another small curtsy before striding through the gate, acting as if I do this every day. Not a big deal. This is normal. It's not as though my insides are screaming at me and my brain is trying to process every single detail to make sure I don't give myself away. The moment I step through the gate, an immense weight is lifted off my shoulders. I made it. I am outside of the castle walls. I have been dreaming about this moment since I was a little girl. I take a step forward, feeling the unevenness of the cobblestones beneath my feet. The gate clangs closed behind me, and I start walking down the road when reality hits me. No one knows where I am or who I am. I am essentially invisible. Out here, I can be anyone I want to be. I can put aside the pressures of being the princess, the future queen, the one who makes decisions that affect every person in the city, in the kingdom. I can just be me. I walk with a purpose, still trying to avoid the attention of the guards. I don't need to give them any reason to question me. Civilians pass by me, walking down the road, bundled up against the cold. I try hard not to make eye contact and focus on my goal. I know the layout of the city well, despite never having stepped foot in it. Edmund ensured I had a good grasp on geography, not only of the principal city, but the entire kingdom of Blackwood and beyond. The businesses may have changed over the years, but I still know the roads well. I turn down the next road and head toward the square. The closer I get, the more crowded it becomes. People carry loaves of bread or other items for tonight's meal as children run and chase each other. Horses are tied at watering troughs and chatter and laughter flowing through the air. Town feels so alive. Blackwood has always been cold and gloomy. We rarely ever have sunlight, and if we do, it merely lightens the perpetual gray cloud cover and mist that rolls through our mountains and forests. It has always felt cold and dull to me. Lifeless. Not now. I slow my steps, raising my head slightly to get a better glimpse of the people, to see my kingdom. My lips curve into a small smile as I take everything in, but drops away quickly as a wave of anger comes over me. My father has been keeping all of this from me. He isn't letting me experience our people or get to know our kingdom like he did for so many years. He walked the roads, made friends, met my mother. The kingdom knew him. He heard their concerns as their prince, and even more as their young king. He wasn't just a future king in name only, like I am. Yet, he refuses to let them know me. I hold my head a little higher, letting the hood fall back slightly, caring less if someone sees my face. He can't take this away from me. I'm already out of my cage. I won't let the feeling deep inside me that I'm breaking the rules or doing something wrong take away this experience. If he finds out and punishes me, so be it. No one even glances my way, my disguise as castle staff helping me fit in perfectly among the people. I cross the square and head toward the library. The gray sky is still light over the tops of the black trees scattered throughout the city, but I know it will start darkening soon. I need to hurry so I don't have to walk back to the castle too late in the night. But I have a mission to accomplish. I will not quit before I find at least something that might help her. Chapter 7. The entry hall of the library dims once I shut the door behind me. The smell of old books with a hint of dust surrounds me, and immediately I feel relief. Like I'm home, back in the castle in my favorite room. An older woman sits at a dark wooden desk, writing in a large book on the desk in front of her. I hesitate. She is the first person I will ever have spoken to outside the castle. Despite knowing that my father kept any and all information about me secret, I still feel uneasy. Like the moment I speak, My identity will be discovered, and they will send me straight back to the castle for the wrath of the king. I'm not ready to go back. Not yet. I take a deep breath and school my face like I have done this 1,000,000 times before, like I belong here. Excuse me? I say quietly, breaking the silence of the library. The woman glances up at me. Yes? How may I help you? Could you please point me toward the healing or medicinal section? She nods and gestures to one side. Yes, it is down this aisle and to the left. There are a few shelves. Please let us know if you need any more assistance. Thank you, I say with a nod. That should be fine. I almost let out a breath of relief as I turn toward the aisle, but I stop short at her next words. Is this for the king? There was no way she could have recognized me already. All the possibilities of how my father will react to me being escorted back to the castle start cycling through my mind. I won't let him deter me. I will hold my ground and defend my choices and reiterate how important this is. I did not get any word that the castle needed assistance, or I would have prepared for him, she says, glancing at the uniform I forgot I was wearing. Relief floods my body and my shoulders relax. The uniform. She must have known right away that I came from the castle. I wasn't expecting someone to call attention to it so quickly. No, I stammer as I try to think up a lie. I didn't realize that the library in the castle regularly sought the help of the librarians in the city, or that my father had, for that matter. I mentally kick myself. Why didn't I prepare for this? Come up with some sort of plan or backstory before just waltzing out of the castle? This is for my own personal knowledge. I stumble through, trying to sound convincing. I hope to become a healer one day. I finished my work at the castle early and thought I would come do some research. She gives me a small smile and a nod. Let me know if you need anything. She turns back to her work, and the library is cast back into silence. Dodged that one. I drop into a small curtsy and quickly head toward the aisle. I glance around the library, taking it all in. The single open room isn't very large, but it isn't small either. There are tables and chairs strewn about, and rows of bookshelves covering almost every surface, creating aisles in the open space. At first glance, it seems to be split into sections. Reference books on the side the woman directed me to, and all other books for all ages on the other. That side definitely looks to be the more popular side of the library, with people of all ages strewn about, reading. A group of girls who look just younger than me sit in the corner, trying to stifle giggles as they pass a book back and forth, their voices low as they whisper to each other. I bet it's similar to what lives on Tila's shelves. Maybe I've even read it before. I suppress the desire to walk over and see what they are reading. A pang of jealousy hits deep in my chest as I spot mothers with small children sitting on the floor and looking at pictures drawn on the pages. My mind drifts back to one letter my mother wrote, where she told me all the things she couldn't wait to do with me, things I wouldn't ever get to experience. Sitting and reading to me, just as these mothers were to their children, was one of them. Stop it, Lennox. Focus. You're here for a reason. I shake my head, snapping myself out of the thought, and push on. Once I find the section on healing, I scan the shelves to see how many texts I have to browse through. There are quite a few, at least 3 full shelves of them. Less than we have at the castle library, but still more than I expected would be here. I grab a couple at random off the first shelf and quickly flip through. Some look to be printed, while others are full of drawings and handwritten notes. Some aren't text at all, but journals kept by healers over the years, full of information on past patients, with different volumes carved into the spines. No one has ever told me what is actually wrong with my mother. The only explanation ever offered to me was that this happened during childbirth. With me, I caused this. I ripped her from my life and didn't even know it. It's one of the main reasons I'm so determined to do something about it. Now that I feel the loss of her personally, saw the woman she was on the page, the mother that she was already and the one she wanted to be, I needed to right this wrong and fix what I had so innocently done simply by being born. After scanning the shelves, I get to work. Intermittent coughs and footsteps break through the silence, but I ignore them, focused solely on my task. One by one, I pull the books off the shelf and flip through to see if it is relevant. Anything concerning childbirth, blood loss, unconscious sleeps, death. Something that might explain why she would have fallen asleep, never to wake. I flip through the index if there is one, or skip the book if the title doesn't seem promising. Some of the printed books I have already seen in the castle's library, but many of the handwritten texts or journals are unique, and we don't have copies. I take extra time on those, looking closely to make sure I'm not missing something important at first glance. By the time I reach the end of the first shelf, I have a large stack of books in my arms. I need to find a table to go through these before I continue on to the other shelves. I walk to the end of the row and glance to the right, but all the tables look full or already claimed. I turn around to check the other side and smack straight into someone's hard chest. Chapter 8. The books fall from my arms and crash loudly to the ground as firm hands wrap around my shoulders, steadying me as I lose my balance.
I'm sorry. Are you all right?
The voice is deep, his words a low grumble, trying not to disturb the quiet more than the clatter of books already has. My eyes slide up his body, taking in his broad frame until they land on his face. Blinking up at him, stunned, I hope he doesn't feel the shiver coursing through me as he holds me steady. I hadn't noticed him when I walked in, because surely he would have stood out. I've never seen anyone like him before. He is young, maybe a few years older than me, and obviously tall as I crane my neck up to see his face. I take in his hair, so different from the clean-cut and shaven guards I'm used to seeing around the castle. Dusty brown waves fall past his shoulders, the top pulled into a knot at the back of his head, as if he lazily tied it out of the way. Large amber eyes sit beneath full dark eyebrows, the same color as the bit of stubble along his sharp jaw and chin. As I scan his face, my eyes catch on a thick scar that cuts through his bottom lip. I want to reach up and run my fingers over it.
Are you all right?
He tilts his head and lowers his face to my level, trying to get my attention. I quickly push the thoughts of touching this stranger's face away and clench my fists by my side. I can't help that I am completely distracted by him. He looks like a hero straight out of one of Tila's books. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm fine. I step back out of his hold and his arms drop to his sides.
Let me get these for you.
He crouches down and begins stacking the books scattered at our feet. Oh, no, it's fine. I can get them. Now that I'm out of his grasp, I can think clearly again. I crouch down as well, trying to beat him to it, hoping he doesn't notice the kinds of books I have gathered.
I insist.
he says, as he rocks his weight back onto his heels, holding a neatly piled stack out in front of him. I hadn't been fast enough, too flustered from actually speaking to someone, let alone someone like him. He smiles and I feel a flutter deep in my stomach. Easy, Lennox. You don't even know this man.
I'm Dane.
He stands and extends his empty hand toward me. I reach out cautiously and shake it. That is what a normal person would do, right? Not be hesitant to touch someone who is being polite and offering their hand. Very nice to meet you, Dane. He pulls me up to stand in front of him, and I quickly withdraw my hand from his and take another step back. It's not a good idea to get too involved with anyone in the city, or someone may find out who I am. I can't take that risk, especially because I need to find an answer as soon as possible. I can't have any distractions. Maybe someday, after my mother is healed and I convince my father that I need to be involved with the people, I can find him again. Maybe then we can be friends. But for now, he was kind after nearly plowing me over, so I can at least be cordial.
And you are?
I process his words. Again, something I didn't plan for. Why the fuck didn't I think I needed to come up with an identity? I shouldn't have rushed this. My emotions got the better of me, and just like Bryn always tells me, I can't strike with too much emotion. The same logic applies here. I stammer. I blurt out the first name that comes to mind, saying a small prayer that the one girl with this name who works in the castle isn't well known outside of it. I'm Addie.
Nice to meet you, Addie.
Dane stares at me, waiting for a response, but my mind is blank. I don't know what to say. Silence hangs between us, neither of us moving, and I shift my weight back and forth on my feet uncomfortably. Is it obvious that I've never done this before? Never met someone new or even had to introduce myself? Dane breaks the silence first.
Can I set these somewhere for you?
He lifts the book slightly, the motion drawing my attention to his arms. His tunic is tight over his chest and shoulders, and I can see the outline of muscle down his arms. I could tell he was strong from the way he held me steady. But now, it was glaringly obvious. And distracting. Are you sure he's not a guard? I don't recognize him at all, despite his body looking like he spends hours training in the rings like Bryn and the others. Maybe he works in the mill felling logs? Or maybe a blacksmith? Yes, thank you. I sneak a quick glance down at the hand that isn't occupied, still holding up my stack of books. There are definitely some calluses, but he seems too clean to be working outside all day. If he is a guard, he hasn't recognized me. Yet.
I think all the tables are full, but you are welcome to share mine.
He gestures behind him with the stack, as if he read my mind. Oh, I don't want to take up your space.
It's no problem at all.
He starts toward the table, and I follow closely behind him. The surface is already piled with a stack of books, and beside it, some parchment and vials of ink. After pushing some rogue papers out of the way, he sets my stack on the opposite end of the table and pulls the chair out for me. Thank you, I murmur as I sit. I scoot my chair closer to the table and feel it lighten underneath me. Glancing over my shoulder, I see Dane's large hands gripping the edges of my seat and helping me in. I turn away quickly so he doesn't see the heat rise in my cheeks. Who is this man, and why is he being so kind to me? Are all men outside the castle like this? It's sad that my mind is immediately skeptical, believing he must have nefarious motivations. But I don't have a choice. It has been ingrained in me to assess the motivations of everyone I encounter. My position as future queen demands it. But is he just being kind? I grab the book off the top of the stack, flipping to the table of contents and scanning the titles until I find one that I think might be useful. I hear Dane pull out his chair and sit on the other side of the table as I flip to the correct page. It takes all of my willpower not to glance up at him. It's hard for me to believe that he can't see desire and curiosity all over my face. Dane is different from any man I've ever seen. His clothes look comfortable and warm, not like the cold royal outfits I'm used to seeing guards wear. His face is rugged and intense, and he looks like he spends a lot of time working with his hands. I push away the images that flash before my eyes of things he could do with his strong hands, things I'd only ever read about. Gods, Lennox, you just met this man. Control yourself. I shift in my seat, crossing my legs, and try to focus back on the pages in front of me. There is no time to be thinking about a man I will probably never see again, especially when my mother's life is on the line. There are more important things than wondering what he does for a living or why he is here in the library instead of home, with his family or wife. Of course, he has a wife. Look at him. But more than the fact that he is extremely good-looking, he is the only person outside of the castle that has spoken to me and was kind to me. I'm not counting the helpful woman at the front desk. Such a simple act has shaken me so much that I'm having trouble accomplishing what I came here for, focusing more on trying to avoid glancing across the table at him. While others would have brushed such a short and simple interaction off, it feels like a monumental shift in my life, like the axis of my world has tilted to the side and is shaking everything up. I am outside of the castle for the first time in my life, talking to a man that I've never met and no one knows. I shouldn't be making friends. I should be focusing on finding something to help my mother. I look toward the front of the library at the stained glass windows on either side of the door. Still light. I haven't lost too much time to distraction. I dip my head down closer to the text and read, scanning through a few sections, but find nothing different from the information in the castle library. The next few texts are the same, so I decide to switch to something handwritten, hoping maybe there would be different observations or ideas that might lead me in a different direction. I pick up the first journal and start flipping through, skimming the notes and descriptions. Nothing. A heavy sigh escapes me as I flip the book closed, a little more harshly than I expected. Light always finds a way, even through the blackest woods. I inhale deeply and reset my shoulders. I can find something. I will not get discouraged so quickly. I will not lose hope even when I feel hopeless. I shift the journal to the top of my finished pile and grab a new one. I lean in closer so I can focus and will myself to block out all the small noises and distractions around me. I don't know how much time has passed when a noise finally breaks my focus. Dane clears his throat and shifts in the chair, which emits a small creak. I keep my eyes glued to the page, trying to find where I left off before his movement distracted me.
Addie?
It takes me a split second to remember that is my name before I look up and meet his gaze.
The library's closing. We should probably head out.
I glance around and, sure enough, the entire room has emptied. More time had passed than I thought, and it was probably late. Really late. Shit. I glance back at the front windows and can't see the design in the glass because of the darkness outside. I didn't intend to stay this late and risk someone checking in on me, only to find my rooms empty. It would most likely be Bryn, and if it was, I'd know the second I stepped out of the library. Guards would be everywhere, searching for me to drag me back behind locked doors. But it is quiet. It doesn't sound like there are search parties scouring the streets. "Okay," I say, my voice cracking with disuse, and probably because of the nerves coursing through my body. I stand quickly and stack the books into one pile. I need to put them away quickly, and my unfamiliarity with the shelves means it will take me a while.
"Are you going to keep all of those?"
he says as he fastens his cloak across his chest. "I was just going to put them back." I incline my head back toward the healing shelves. A look of confusion falls over his face.
"Have you never been to this library before?"
Am I that obvious? I quickly try to think of reasons or explanations that might sound convincing, but the ones coming to me sound ridiculous. I decide to keep it simple and stick with the truth. I've actually only ever used the library in the castle. I didn't want to leave a mess on my first visit and cause a problem with the librarian. Or get noticed, but I'm not going to tell him that. I've already been noticed more than I wanted.
"It's all right. Agnes works at night once the library closes. Any texts that are left out she sorts and puts away, so you can leave whatever you are done with on the table. The rest we can bring to her at the front, and she will hold them for you, for the next time you come back."
Oh, that's convenient. It would save me a lot of time not having to wander through the shelves again, trying to remember which texts I'd already looked through and which ones I hadn't.
"Yeah, it is. That is, if you plan to come back."
I can't help but think that the look on his face is hopeful. Does he want me to come back? I feel a small flutter in my stomach at the thought. I do. Plan on it, that is. I planned on being here a lot, as much as I need to. I don't have time to waste, but that doesn't mean I can't enjoy his company if he is going to be here too. Dane's face breaks into a smile, and if I thought the quiet, serious man sitting across from me was beautiful, it pales in comparison to when he smiles. I set the finished books back on the table and adjust the smaller stack in my arms. I'm not finished with these, and there are still another couple of shelves I haven't gotten to.
"Here, let me carry those for you."
He reaches out and takes the books out of my hands, his fingertips brushing mine as he lifts the stack. My first reaction is to snatch my hands away from his. Easy physical contact between people is foreign to me, as no one touches the princess. But I also don't need him carrying my things. I get enough of that in the castle. I don't need anyone fawning over me out here. I'm not Princess Lennox in this library. I can carry them, I huff, as I awkwardly reach toward the stack, trying my best not to touch him again. I also don't want him seeing what I'm looking for.
"It's all right. I've got them."
He takes a few steps toward the front desk and pauses, waiting for me to catch up.
"You can let me help you. I won't bite."
The ends of his lips curl up slightly, and I bite my lip, trying to hide my smile. I'm not used to someone helping me just because they want to. I've been surrounded by staff my whole life, and while I appreciate everything they do for me and for the kingdom, in the end, it's their job. They aren't acting out of the goodness of their hearts, like Dane seems to be. Except for Tila and Edmund. I believe they stick around because they truly care, and it's more than just a job to them. Even Bryn's position is out of duty and honor, together with her desire to be the first guard. I know she cares for me, and would do anything to protect me, and I love her for it. But if she could protect my father instead, She would. I'm sorry. I'm not used to people helping me. I don't want you to think I can't do something on my own. I quickly catch up to him and we fall into stride, heading toward the front desk.
Why would I ever think that? I have no doubt you could do whatever you set your mind to.
I shake my head in disbelief. How would you know that? You don't even know me. His face breaks out into a slow grin.
Oh, don't worry. I know exactly who you are.
Chapter 9. My body jerks to a halt and I stare after him in complete shock. How did this happen? What gave me away? Have I been putting on this charade and he knew who I was from the moment I bumped into him? How did you know? I say, trying my best to keep the panic out of my voice. He stops and turns back to me, realizing that I am no longer alongside him.
It wasn't that difficult. If you were trying to hide it, you did a terrible job.
Fuck. I need to do damage control. I hadn't expected anyone to figure me out at all, let alone this quickly. Would it be better to just come clean or to ask for his silence? I straighten my shoulders and lift my chin, trying to let my years of lessons take over and hide the fear coursing through my body. I ask that you keep this between us. My gaze meets his and I hold it, unblinking. I need him to know that I'm serious. My identity cannot get out, and news of this can't get back to my father. I'm not sure how he figured me out, but that doesn't matter now. He knows, and he needs to keep quiet.
Why would I keep it between us?
He takes a few steps toward me, slowly closing the gap, his movements reminding me of the castle cats hunting their prey.
I think it is something you would want people to know.
I don't, I say, my words harsh even to my own ears. He is inches away from me now, so close that my heaving chest can almost touch him. He towers over me, and I have to crane my neck to maintain our eye contact, to show him I am serious.
I think it is information that the people back at the castle would find valuable, don't you think?
There's a gleam in his eye that sets off unease in my stomach. That can't happen, I grind out. I am ready to bribe him if need be. Is a bribe what he was looking for the entire time? Was he being kind to lure me in and then turning on me for his own profit? I open my mouth, ready to ask him what he wants when his face softens. He dips his head down, bringing his face closer to mine, and his voice drops into a soft murmur.
Why wouldn't you want anyone at the castle knowing what an amazingly dedicated and hard worker they have?
I snap my mouth shut. Oh. Excuse me? I need him to keep talking, to give me an explanation. He gestures at my staff clothing with his free hand.
You're here, after a full day's work at the castle, clearly doing some research in the healing section.
He lifts the stack of books he's carrying for me, and his tone changes to almost playful.
Now, I've never worked at the castle, but I can assume your job doesn't start late in the day. I would think the kingdom would be happy to know what kind of person they have working for them. You're clearly someone who's trying to better themselves and move up the ranks.
The panic in me starts to subside. I was wrong. He doesn't know who I am. I am flooded with relief, but still need to back my way out of this. I know I came off defensive, and I don't want him to pick up on it and start questioning who I actually am. I cross my arms over my chest and try my best to give him a coy smile. I beg your pardon, sir, but if I didn't know better, I would think you were studying me more than your books.
Maybe a little,
he says with a smirk. I look away to distract myself from the discomfort his words give me, but feel a flutter of thrill deep inside my stomach. Is this what flirting feels like? Is Dane flirting with me? If he only knew who he was flirting with. I glance around the library and realize we're alone, the only ones left in the large room except for a woman I assume is Agnes standing at the front desk. I think we should probably go. We're the only ones here. He glances around, taking in the same empty room.
I guess I got distracted. Let's go before Agnes gets upset with us.
At the desk, Dane sets the stack of books down and gives Agnes our names to hold them under. Once they are tucked away, she bids us a good night, and we turn toward the front door. I pull my hood up over my head, although not as low over my face as it was when I first left the castle. At the top of the steps, I stop and take in the city's calm. There's no sign of guards frantically searching for me. Bryn isn't wandering the streets, kicking in doors. Music and laughter echo through the mist-covered streets, likely from the taverns and businesses still open this late. The liveliness brings a small smile to my face. I want to see it. I want to see more of it than just the library and the fronts of the buildings in passing as I walk through the streets. I want to experience the people, the culture of our city and kingdom, not just read about it or hear stories from Edmund. Maybe one day. Dane stops alongside me.
It's late and dark already. I will escort you back to the castle.
Thank you, but I will be all right.
There's no way I'm letting a beautiful girl walk home alone this late at night. Besides, I wasn't asking permission.
He extends his arm toward me, waiting for me to take it. I start at his words. I know objectively my looks are appealing, but beautiful? No one has ever muttered that word describing me, except for Tila, and I always thought she used it to refer to her work and contributions toward my looks. Beauty was never important, only the skills required to be a successful queen. I wasn't sure the princes and nobles from other kingdoms coming to my birthday ball would even care about beauty when trying to seek an alliance and betrothal. I don't know how to respond, so I blurt out the first thing that comes to my mind. I'll be fine, really. I'm sure your wife will be worried if you get back too late. He chuckles softly as he shakes his head.
No, she won't worry.
My head snaps to look at him. He actually has a wife? What an asshole, flirting with me all evening while he has a family waiting for him at home. He drops the arm that he's had extended and turns to face me. His eyebrow quirked and a small smile hints at his lips.
There would have to be a wife in order for her to worry. My sister might, though.
Sister, not wife. So, he's not an asshole. The amount of relief I feel at that revelation is distracting. And I'm not one to get distracted. I can debate war tactics with Edmund, recite poetry and quote literature. I can fight. But Dane distracts me. His beautiful eyes and sharp jaw should not be my focus at all. I need to focus on getting back to the castle unseen. Let's just go. I start down the stairs and hear a small chuckle, followed by footsteps behind me. I wrap my cloak tighter around me, the chill and moisture in the air so different from what I am used to in the castle. Dane catches up to me in a few strides, but I don't slow down. The Blackwood trees tower over the structures, casting darkness and shadows everywhere. Fog seeps through the trees, billowing over the tops of the buildings. The only light that breaks through glows around the lanterns and the torches lit, marking the doors to the establishment. It feels eerie, being out here this late. I know the city streets, but walking down them in the dark feels different. I suddenly am aware of how vulnerable I am, and a shudder works through my body.
Too cold outside of the castle?
Dane says. That, among other things. Despite thinking he was an asshole looking to cheat on his wife a few minutes ago, I'm suddenly grateful that Dane is here. Making a friend wasn't my goal for the evening, but maybe it wouldn't harm me to have one. I've wanted friends outside the castle walls my entire life, and Dane seems like he's interested in being friends with me too. It would definitely make me feel more comfortable having someone to walk home with at night.
I tend to run warm.
He extends his arm toward me again and eyes me expectantly. My gaze trails over his arm, remembering the lines of muscle that were visible through his shirt, now hidden by his thick cloak. I wrap my arm around his, remembering my royal manners and keeping our arms linked exactly how I had been taught as a young girl. Despite the formal posture and extreme focus, every inch of my arm in contact with Dane is tingling with energy. I feel his warmth, even through layers of fabric. No one inside the castle has ever touched me as easily as he does. We continue walking, silence heavy between us, neither of us acknowledging our closeness or the last bits of our conversation. Is this what it feels like to be normal? To be a woman escorted home by a man where any physical contact didn't spur talks of alliances and betrothals? To just be free to do what I want, when I want?
I haven't seen you around before,
he says, finally breaking the silence.
Are you from Blackwood or from another kingdom?
I need to keep this conversation general and stick to truths where I can. Too many lies might make him suspicious, especially if I get caught up in them. I've lived here my whole life, but I don't get out much.
What made you come out tonight?
I think back to the lie I told the librarian. I don't know how well Dane knows her, so I need to stay consistent. I want to become a healer, so I've been working to build my knowledge. I've read mostly everything in the castle over my years working there, so I decided to see if there was anything more before I pursue it.
Sounds like you'll make a great healer if you're willing to seek out more knowledge like that. A lot of them seem to be very stuck in their ways, at least the ones I've interacted with.
Thank you, I murmur. I don't disagree with him. After overhearing the conversation with the castle healer and my father, I couldn't help but feel that they weren't seeking out any new information. They gave up and told him it was time to let go. I don't want to accept that. Not after the gift Edmund gave me. I try to turn the conversation away from me. What about you? What brings you to the library?
I'm doing some healing research as well.
I see him sneak a glance at me out of the corner of my eye, but keep my eyes trained on the road before us.
There aren't normally many people in that section of the library, so I wasn't expecting you to come around the corner. I apologize again for bumping into you. You seemed startled.
I was startled. I chuckle, glancing over at him. Look at you. You basically plowed me over. His head falls back with a loud laugh, the sound infectious and bringing a smile to my face.
At least neither you nor the books were damaged in the process.
We were not. Luckily for you. I smirk up at him and make eye contact briefly, but turn away. What felt like a long walk to the library is flying by on the way home, probably from the distraction of his arm still wrapped in mine. I can already see the stone of the castle walls just ahead, and the guards in front of the gate I came through earlier. I break my hold and pull away from Dane's arm, reaching up to pull the hood down farther over my face. I don't want to risk getting too close and having someone recognize me. Thank you for walking me home. I very much appreciate it, I say. I don't want to keep you too long from your sister.
Yes, I should be getting back to her. I hope to see you again, Addie.
He grins at me and I feel something in my chest clench. He wants to see me again. How has this night turned from the most intense and nerve-wracking to the most exciting night of my life? I will try to come in the evenings after work, but it depends. Hopefully, I will see you again too. I give him a small curtsy and turn toward the castle, walking quickly with my head down so I don't catch anyone's eye.
"Evening, miss. Glad to see you had someone escort you back,"
the guard says as he unlatches the lock on the gate. Yes, it was very kind of him, I reply.
"Have a good night, miss,"
he says with a nod. I curtsy before heading straight for the kitchen. The castle is quiet now, and I weave through the stairs and halls without running into another person before finally making it back to my rooms. This almost feels too easy. Has leaving been this easy the entire time? Have I been so groomed to listen to what I was told and never try to do anything for myself that I sat locked in this castle when it was so easy to leave? Had all this suffering and isolation not actually been at the hands of my father, but my doing? Because I was not strong enough to stand up and do something for myself? That will not be me any longer. I am going to do what I want now. No one had noticed I was gone, so there would be no one to stop me. I will go out again, and I will find what I'm looking for. Who knows? Maybe I'll even find who I've been looking for too. Chapter 10. I have left the castle and gone to the library almost every day this week, and not one person has noticed. On the days I did not train with Bryn, I spent the evenings poring through pages of texts. I paid extra attention to the time, ensuring I did not stay as late as the first night because I didn't have anyone to walk me home. Dane hadn't shown up at all. I was kidding myself if I said I hadn't expected he would. He said he hoped to see me. So why was he the one who didn't show? Estelle, the woman who works at the front desk, grew to recognize and expect me in the evenings. Both she and Agnes became more and more friendly, suggesting different volumes to help me with my studies. They didn't know I was looking for something in particular, and everything they suggested was nowhere near as specific as I needed, but I thanked them anyway. Despite all my effort, I am still coming up empty-handed, and it is extremely frustrating. There has to be something, anything, even just a sentence that hints at something new the healers can try. When I thought I finally found a set of documents from a healer that looked promising, it ended as expected. The patient never woke up. No treatments were successful. Any mention of unconscious patients always turned out the same, and it was always noted that nothing more could be tried. The only promising piece of information that gave me some hope was the length of sleep. Most patients hadn't lived more than a year or two after falling into the unconscious state. My mother has been asleep for almost 21 years. That has to mean something, that she was meant to come back to me. Whatever was going on in her mind that we could not see, she was fighting to stay here. I need to find a way to bring her out of it. Some type of plant or tincture that can wake her. There has to be another case where someone recovered from this. I just need to keep searching. I'm not giving up. I leave the castle earlier today so I can explore a bit more of the city. I don't want to waste the little researching time I have, but I also want to stretch my legs and observe, not just rush to the library. The guards barely even pay attention to my coming and going now, only politely greeting me each time I pass through the gate. I try to take a new route every day to soak in as much of the surroundings as I can. The more I see of the city, the more I love it, and the more I resent my father for not letting me grow up in it. It is full of life and our unique Blackwood culture. And I don't feel like it is a part of me, even though I am supposed to rule over it. There is only so much I can learn about it by reading or from my lessons. I want to experience it, to really feel it. I want to talk to the people, see the art and the architecture. I want to go out into our forests, deep into the beautiful black woods that gave us our name. I want to see the villages and experience the mills that bring us our wealth. Today, I decide to pass through an older part of the city, where the older structures still stand while newer ones were built around them. The buildings here are clearly different, the size and texture of the stones much smaller and smoother from years of the weathering and moisture in the air. Dark leaf-covered vines grow up the sides of many walls, making the passages between the buildings even darker than others. I wander through the alleys, nodding a hello to the occasional person passing through, but never stop to talk to anyone I come across. I finally decide to head back toward the library when I pass an opening to a small alley. A structure further in catches my eye and I stop, peering into the dim lighting. The narrow alley widens around the structure, as if the buildings were built around it. I take a step closer, just inside the pathway, my curiosity making me forget my goal of getting back to the library. It looks like a fountain, the light carved stone completely different from the buildings that surround it. I pause and listen, trying to pick up any sound of flowing water, but I hear nothing. My eyes snag on the chips and chunks taken out of the pool that surrounds it. Time has not been kind to it, with the damage and lack of water flow. It must have been here for ages. I try to make out the carvings on the structure that stands tall from the center of the pool, but with the low lighting and mist filling the alley, I can't quite see. It won't take me too long to see what it is, at least while the sun hasn't set. I take another step into the alley when a low voice startles me to a stop.
Fancy seeing you here.
I spin around quickly, clutching my chest and facing the entrance to the alley. A tall, broad figure completely blocks the entrance, trapping me inside the alley alone. Shadows cover his face, but the flutter in my stomach tells me I don't need to be afraid. Despite only hearing it once before, I recognize his voice. It shouldn't be hard. He's the only person besides Agnes and Estelle outside of the castle that I know. Dane, hi. I smile at him as he steps out of the shadows, and all thoughts of heading farther into the alley are gone. You startled me. I didn't hear anyone come up behind me. He crosses his arms over his chest and leans his shoulder into the stone wall.
I wasn't expecting to see you this far away from the library. What are you doing all the way out here?
Just exploring. I don't get a lot of time out of the castle, so I was making use of it. He tilts his head and eyes me warily.
I thought you grew up here. Don't you know the city?
I did, I stammer. I mean, I grew up in Blackwood, but not inside the city. I lived in Vorley. Have you heard of it? It's a small village close to the border we share with Portland. I mentally thank Edmund for all the geography lessons and my father for insisting that I know all the cities and villages in the kingdom. Once I moved into the castle, I didn't really have time to explore the city, so I'm trying to do that a little more now.
Well then.
He pushes himself off the wall and towers over me, a smile making his face light up.
It seems you need an introduction to some of the fine establishments we have here.
Maybe sometime, I say. Are you heading to the library as well? We could walk together. I haven't seen you there the last few days. It feels so forward to say, but if he notices my discomfort, he doesn't seem to mind.
I apologize. My responsibilities have called me away, but I spoke with Estelle. She said you have been doing more research.
Yes, but I still have a lot of work to do. I should be on my way. I drop into a small curtsy and lower my face to hide the disappointment I am feeling. It was nice seeing you again, Dane. I take a step toward his side, trying to squeeze past him and through the opening, but he slides in front of me and blocks my path.
Wait.
He reaches up and grasps my shoulders, holding me out in front of him. I feel a rush of excitement at his touch, the heat from his hands boring through my cloak. I raise my eyes to look into his and lift a brow, waiting for him to say something more.
How about you take one night off? Just one. You've been working so hard, and I could help show you some of the town. I could show you my favorite tavern. They have great food if you ever need a place to eat in the future.
His rambling brings heat to my cheeks despite the increasing cold coming on with the setting of the sun. He doesn't want me to leave. I don't want to leave. But I have more work to do, and I can't afford to lose a night of research and stall my progress. I'm pushing my luck taking so long. I bite my lip, thinking hard to come up with a way to say no, even though my body is screaming for me to agree.
Please.
He leans down to my level, and meeting my eye, a sort of shyness taking over his features. I feel his hands give my shoulders a slight squeeze, and feel my resolve disappear with the motion. All right, I say, but let's hurry so I can still get some work done after. His face breaks into a huge grin that I can't help but return.
Deal.